I think if we can agree on one thing, brands need to be resilient in these coming months and years. And you touched on a lot of fantastic stuff today, but are there any piece of practical advice you would offer advertisers who are still trying to wrap their heads around this and plot out a path forward?
So, great question. If I were still in my CMO role, and I've been a CMO in a couple of different organizations, I'd really be thinking about, how do I make sure I stick with the basics? And the basics to me
Hmm.
are being wonderful about understanding who my audience is, understanding what they're trying to do, what their objectives are in buying my brand or buying from my competitors, and being able, in very practical terms, to focus on how I help them to understand the benefits that they get from using my particular product or service and why that's better than the competition. So in Northwestern University, when we teach this, we talk about segmentation, targeting, and
Hmm.
positioning. Those are kind of the ABCs. It happens to be the STP of marketing, but really, that's the basics. Do I have a clear audience? Do I have a clear set of targets among that audience? And have I positioned my product or my service so that they understand why I'm the preferred choice? I don't think any of that changes because of anything currently happening. So, what does change is the need for nimbleness and the need to be prepared to swerve or zig when we zag, and being able to then kind of keep the course in terms of those core basics, but potentially vary practice tactics as we go through the day-to-day kinds of activities. And the other thing, once again, this has nothing to do with current administration. I do think we're seeing a sea change as a result of technology, including AI. And
Hmm.
so every brand that I work with and every brand that I teach about in my day-to-day work, the ones that seem to be the winners are the ones who really figured out how to lean into that technology as a way to transform their organization, to make them more efficient, make them more effective. So I do think that those things continue regardless of the administration that we have. And it may change a little bit about our communications and the messaging strategy that we have, but we still need to be, hyper focused on the impact that technologies will have in our business and how we can use them, and also understand how consumers are using them as well. So I always love sharing a quote from Condoleezza Rice a number of years ago. She was the Secretary of State for this first George
Hmm.
Bush, George H.W. Bush, and she said, what at one time seemed impossible, in retrospect seems inevitable. And I think
Hmm.
true, she was referring to geopolitics. And we could say that describes the world that we're in today. If I told you
Yes.
that this former real life series television star would be not only president, but would be president twice, you would have said impossible. But now
Hmm.
it's inevitable. I'd say that the same thing is true with technology and the other changes that we're seeing. So I think just always being aware of what might happen and being prepared for that, which goes back to really having a clear eye on a couple of key indicators and building that institutional capability for signal intelligence is where I would place my bets.